28th December, Sagittarius, control of speech. Control of speech becomes feeling for truth. Control of speech is the point of balance between moralizing, trying to impose an excessive control on self-expression, and a loose tongue of gossip and slander. The meaning of this virtue may seem obvious, as in refrain from talking. It may seem puzzling to see how this virtue differs from the virtue of silence. On a superficial level, being seen and not heard can be seen as a nice, polite thing to do. However, Parsifal failed the Grail quest at first because he did not speak the question. To uncover the essence of control of speech, we need to dig a bit deeper. What happens when we speak? I'm thinking of the lyrics to Regina Spektor's song, The Call. It started out as a feeling, which then grew into a hope, which then turned into a quiet thought, which then turned into a quiet word. Before we speak, something is happening inside of us, a feeling in the song, perhaps an internal sensation, or perhaps a sense impression of something external. In our sentient soul, we connect with this stimulus. In the song, the stimulus engenders hope, but it could engender all kinds of other reactions as we begin to relate the stimulus to our previous experience. In our intellectual mind soul, we define and categorize the experience, shaping it into thought. When it is fully formed and finished, it can be spoken or written as word. Imagine you have a piece of clay in your hands. At this point, the clay can become anything. The possibilities are endless. As we work it, we begin to shape it. We can still change it, even squish it up and start all over again. But finally, the creation is finished. We put it in a kiln to fire it, and it becomes hard and relatively permanent. Of course, there's nothing wrong with pots or ornaments made out of clay. They may be beautiful or useful. Likewise, words. But a finished pot marks the end of the process of creation. The dynamic nature of the process of creation is lost. And when we form words in the outside world from our inner impulses, likewise, something vital and dynamic dies. In Peter Pan, J.M. Barrie writes, "Every time a child says, 'I don't believe in fairies,' there is a fairy somewhere that falls down dead." And there are numerous fairy stories about people who gain 3 wishes only to waste them because they cannot control their tongue. If we were conscious of the creative or destructive power of our words, we would surely choose them more carefully. And here we have the virtue. In the book The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, be impeccable with your word is the first agreement. He says, "Our power of creation is the word. The word is the most powerful tool that humans possess. It is the tool of magic. Through the word, you express your creative power. It is through the word that you manifest everything. Regardless of what language you speak, your intent manifests through the word. Through the word, we manifest everything. We express our will, our intent, our love, and our faith." This virtue fits well with the zodiac symbol for Sagittarius, the archer. If an archer went into the forest firing off arrows willy-nilly, for a start, he'd soon run out of arrows, but also all manner of things could happen, and probably bad things. That's not how an archer works. An archer takes time to find his own poise, sense the target, and take aim. A skillful archer will sense all kinds of things about the context and environment, such as the wind direction, the movement of the target, and so on, and will make allowances and adjustments. The archer's body is poised with expectant restraint, as he waits for the perfect moment and the perfect shot. In a story for Class 2, based on this virtue, although they didn't know that, I described a character who could move through the forest and know the exact moment that each ripe fruit was going to befall and be there to catch it in his hand. This is the virtue of control of the tongue. It is waiting, sensing, adjusting, opening oneself to the phenomenon, allowing time for perception and thinking as a dynamic process, and then speaking the right word at the right moment, just as the ripe fruit falls from the tree into your hand. A quintessential expression of the virtue of control of speech can be found in Luke's Gospel, chapter 2. The shepherds have travelled to Bethlehem and told Mary and Joseph about the message given to them by the angel. They then go off to spread their news far and wide, and all who hear the message marvel. And then we have the passage that is usually translated as, "But Mary treasured these things and pondered them in her heart." This all sounds very serene and Madonna-like, but when you look at the original Greek, the verbs used are more active. I could translate it as, "But Mary guarded these words within her and tossed them around in her heart." Whilst the shepherds are active in the world sharing the tidings of great joy, Mary is inwardly active in trying to comprehend their true meaning. Meditations and visualizations. Listen to the sounds in the environment with close attention. Notice the difference between those sounds with a living soul quality behind them and those of a mechanical nature. Then inwardly, vividly recreate the song of a bird or the sound of another animal you are familiar with. Can you imagine the inner being of that creature? Pay close attention to the intonations in your voice and those of others. What soul qualities can be heard? Work meditatively with the words, "When man gains knowledge of himself, his self becomes for him the world. When man gains knowledge of the world becomes for him his self."